Wildfire is one of the primary forces of change on Idaho's landscape. We've assembled an historic data set that looks at the occurrence of wildfires from 1950 through 2015. You know, some of the data in the 1950s and 60s and even the early 70s might be a bit sketchy. So we have to take some of these results with a bit of a grain of salt. We're looking at, in the 1950s and 60s and even the 70s, of wildfires burning about maybe 200,000 acres per year. Once we move into the 1980s, however, we're going to see that number start to change. One of the reasons is, of course, that there's a better process of recording and maintaining those records. So we have better documentation on those fires. But in the 1980s, what we're starting to see is fires in a given year exceeding 500,000 acres in many cases. Not always. In a given year, we might have 500,000 or 600,000 acres, and a year or two following it, drop down to less than 100,000 acres. Much of this, of course, is in response to the weather conditions, wet years versus dry years. Once we get into the 2000s, the new millennium, then of course we have very, very good documentation on our fires, but we're also starting to see some very large individual fires and some very large annual totals. In some cases, over 1 million acres being burned in a given year. 2007, coming up here in just a little bit, was a record year, having the largest number of documented wildfires and the largest amount of total acreage of fires. Now, some, of course, would be quick to point out that this is due to global climate change, but that necessarily isn't substantiated by these data.